Welcome everyone to our Unlock the Middle video cast number 11. In these video casts, we explore and celebrate all that is special about middle school education. During this evening's video cast, we hope our viewers will be able to chime on in, share some thoughts or comments via the comments feature in the device that you're watching. If it's on Facebook Live, if it's on Twitter, if it's on Periscope or YouTube. We'll try and get your questions and comments up on the screen as we get rolling. Be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Unlock the Middle. I'm your co-host, Chris Starcheski, the principal at Dudley Middle School in Dudley, Massachusetts, along with my good friend and colleague, principal of Charlton Middle School, Charlton, Massachusetts, Dean Packard. How are you tonight, Dean?
Hey, Chris, I'm really excited about tonight. I am doing really well. Listen, we had a great day here at our house. We had our cousins from Texas stop in. We have been going nonstop since 12, and we've had a great time reconnecting with them. It's been a lot of years since we've seen them, and it's been an amazing family connecting moment for us. But I'll tell you what, I have to step away from that because we've got an incredible show tonight. We have been so lucky to solidify an individual from Portland, Oregon, who's really going to take us through the journey of being a school improvement mindset. We've had our pre-conversation with Lindsay, and she's been absolutely nothing short of amazing. Looking forward to tonight and can't wait.
It's going to be a great time, that's for sure. We closed our pool today at Team Star Clubhouse. And, a few hours of backbreaking work was well worth it. Saved a couple $100 in the process, but started us to transition over to football season. Patriots had an impressive win in the new era of Cam Newton today, Dean. And I have to say, I was watching the Tampa Bay game rooting for Tom Brady, but I wasn't too surprised to see some of the struggles that we had experienced as Patriots fans emerge in that Buccaneers game this afternoon.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. People from New England have been spoiled over the years, and we do wish Tom Brady and Gronk well in a new venue down in Florida. But again, once a New England fan, always a New England fan. We take it through the wins and losses, and we are pretty diehard about our team. So again, not a bad day. Great day to kick off football season, and that's going to lead us into one of our future podcasts as well, as you and I talked about what that might look like with two NFL players from our district that we're going to be reaching out to. But that's for another story, and that's for another time, Chris.
Absolutely. And you know what? Tonight, we're talking about football. We're talking about continuous improvement, continuous betterment, learning how to adjust and how to adapt, how to take our game to the next level, whether we're on the football field or in the classroom. And tonight's show is all about that very topic. Why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest, Dean, and I'll bring her on in.
It's my pleasure. I'll tell you what, we had the pleasure of meeting Lindsay Deacon back in the beginning of the week, and we've had some great pre-conversations about what tonight's going to look like. But Lindsay Deacon is a school improvement coach and professional learning facilitator out of Portland, Oregon. She has earned her master's in teaching and master's in education and administration from Concordia University with a focus on urban and diverse school environments. Lindsay has worked under Dr. Jim Knight's leadership on his instructional coaching team and on Professor John Hattie's visible learning team at Corwin Press. It is an honor and a privilege to have you here with us tonight. Lindsay, welcome to Unlock the Middle, and we can't wait to get started.
Welcome,
Thank you for having me. Hi. Hey, just so you know, Cam Newton is my QB1 on my fantasy team. So,
oh, good pick. Absolutely good pick. That's going to get you some vital points. There's no doubt about it. Lindsay, Chris and I are super excited to have you here tonight. And what excites us most about this topic we're going to talk about when we talk about improving schools and coaching and what it looks like within school frameworks is how we become better at what we do. And we never stop rethinking and reimagining school because given the circumstances that we're under, let's talk about it for a second because it's unique and it's germane to all of us. We're all dealing with the same things, but schools in general have to be visionary. We have to look at what it's going to look like in the future. And I think this conversation is going to lead us just in that direction.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to roll out first question for you. Talk a little bit about school improvement and professional learning facilitator, what that means. That's your title, okay? And we know you've authored a book, and I want to hear about that. I'm excited to hear about what that looks like.
Really, my bottom line is just helping develop people because I feel like, especially really early in my teaching career, I was super lucky to be mentored by some amazing coaches and mentors. starting with Ann Hoffman, who works for the instructional coaching group. And then my district sent me out to Jim Knight super early in my career. And I feel like coaching just spoke to me because I was so lucky to have others invest in me. So as a school improvement coach, essentially what I do is I coach the coaches who are coaching at schools, they're coaching at the school district level, primarily at Title I schools, but we also, I mean, here in Portland, we have a pretty big district, so they're all over the place. And, and I always think like we are building capacity, not adding capacity, because the role of the coach can be cut every year, right? So what we don't want to do is have somebody who's taking care of a whole bunch of things and then they're gone and then the school suffers. So it's all about just building capacity in the people. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And as you dig down deeper into the weeds, you think for a second about the skill sets you bring to help out your school. And I say to myself, how can your skills assist educators in schools? What do you bring to them that help make them better?
Well, so I personally think coaches should always be 10 steps ahead when it comes to research and reading and like professional reading, training, PD. So in my role at the district level, having to coach coaches, I have really had to be 100 steps ahead, right? So it is about being a voracious reader. And, anytime Jim Knight puts out a blog post or Elena Aguilar's got out a new book or anything like that, I am like reading all the things, talking with as many people as possible. So, yeah. And, I just think about, especially for myself, I've worked in a lot of toxic school environments. Ann Hoffman once told me that we should write a book on what it feels like to work in a toxic school because we'd done it so many times. So that's what we did.
Fantastic idea. The idea of school culture is absolutely essential to ensuring that the kids can move forward with that positive culture, that positive environment.
Yeah.
When you think about when you go into a school environment, what is it that you do to connect with the administrators and teachers that you're going to be working with? Because you're not a stay put position. How do you build that relationship and rapport?
Yeah. Working at the district level in general, I learned was really isolating right from the beginning. Like I thought coaching in a building was going to be isolating, and then moving out of a school community was really challenging. So I think for any coaches, regardless of who they are, it's all about visibility. And I think that administrators always talk about that as well. It's just about being willing to roll up your sleeves and dive in whenever you see an opportunity. And you have to be a huge self-advocate. You can't just wait for somebody to email or raise their hand. Like you have got to roll up your sleeves and get in there. I think also for me, like I know I gather a lot of information. And so my job is to like hold all of this knowledge, but then provide the right resource at the right time. Because a lot of people in schools, like we don't have a lot of time to think or process. And so to just like, oh, I found this thing, it works for whatever you're going through, whatever your dilemma is, like, boom, here it is, go.
So Lindsay, not only are you an instructional coach, but you're also an author. And the EduCoach Survival Guide is the title. I'm looking forward to diving in and reading beyond what I've had the chance to take a look at so far. Talk a little bit about how educators can apply practices in the book and what they can take away.
Yeah. Here's the idea. That coaches, mentors, principals, everybody should receive formal training in how to like work with adults and on adult learning theory, like the fundamentals of coaching. And I really honestly mean this. If you are thinking about buying my book, but you have not had formal training in coaching, don't buy my book because it's a shortcut. Like, I don't want you to buy it. What I want is that you've got Jim Knight's books, Elena Aguilar's books, Joelle and Killian, all of the pedagogy is on your shelf and you have done some PD. And then you're in a school in the moment and there's all these other dilemmas that pop up that are basically the crap before you even get to working with like a coaching cycle. So, a teacher's blowing you off constantly at the last minute. Well, what do you do? Because you can't, as a teacher, when you're colleagues, you can kind of call people out, you can joke around, there's a different level. But I think as coaches, like we're trying to really build these very authentic styles and really help people. And we have to put our ego aside. So the book is really, it's like 47 scenarios of things that I have observed in my role, either as a coach or like coaching the coaches, and that we've collected from coaches in the field. And then in each scenario, there are like plans, plan A, plan B, plan C, worst case scenario. And we're talking like really quick in the minute plans. Because what we found was, especially in my role coaching the coaches, some days I would, work with 5 different coaches at 5 different schools. I'd walk away and I'd say, I solved the exact same problem 5 different times. And I wish there was just a book. So if it started that I was just Googling like coach survival guide. Why isn't there one? Is there a field guide? And I asked everyone I knew in coaching, whether it was like my friends at Corwin or in other school districts, and we just couldn't really find anything like it. And in the beginning we went, well, how hard could it be to write a book? Hey, spoiler alert, it's really hard. Yeah. So, but we really did our best. And we were so lucky to have Jim Knight's support to write the foreword and give us some guidance along the way. So, really the idea is like, you've got your coaching books and then ours sits next to it for when you're like really stuck.
Sounds like you really took on the problem after you couldn't get Google to solve it for you. And congratulations and kudos to you.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That goes against what we tell kids. There's a problem, go to Google, they'll solve it for you. So
no,
it's right. There's got to be more steps to it. Listen, I can't wait to get into the book as well, Lindsay, and just take a look at it and see what it can offer from our standpoint as administrators.
Yeah.
Lindsay, so creating change isn't easy in school. Obviously, there are a lot of variables that would not allow change to be very smooth. You got strategic planning, school improvement planning. However, times like these present so many opportunities to rethink and reimagine learning, and that's what we're really excited about. What are some of the thoughts you have about how schools can begin to pivot to make the necessary changes to reach all students? This is like $1 million question that all schools are waiting to hear.
Stop sending so many emails.
That's fair. That's a great start. There's no doubt.
Nobody ever liked my answer. I think that it's so hard to answer this, right? But what I see is that we're always trying to do everything all at the same time. And we know that doesn't work. The research says that does not work, that we need to focus on one thing, get really good at it, master it, and then go to the next thing and layer it on top, right? And we can have different teams focusing on things, but we need to have that clarity and vision. And I would just say that there are, it's just really complicated where there's so much happening all at once. And I don't really have an answer because, at the district level, there's a lot of things that just get pressed on us and they're not even from the school district, right? They're from the state. They're from the federal government.
We call them unfunded mandates.
Yes, exactly.
So you have those in Oregon. Nice.
No, it's not somewhere else besides Massachusetts.
We don't have those at all. No, deal with that. No, we're perfect. But it's especially then when I serve Title I schools, it's like then the level of compliance and the initiatives is just like even trifold, which is exactly the thing that they don't need. So I think as schools and anyone who serves in a leadership capacity, right, like the more clear they can be about visioning and what your compass is, I think that's really important. And I think for me, Jenny Donahue's work in collective efficacy speaks to everything that we should all be reading and doing. And it's, it's not just reading this book, it's that her work really is about how teachers build efficacy, how leaders build efficacy. And it's really evident to me when I visit different schools, almost in the fall, from the minute I walk in, I can tell right away which schools have their identity set, which schools really come together when there's a challenge. And man, can you not, you can see that right now, right? Like everybody's experiencing this massive amount of challenge, but those who start picking at each other or blaming the system or blaming the district or blaming the government or whatever it is, it's obvious that their efficacy is lacking and it's not their fault. It's that we need to help them better understand that they have it in them to do the work and that they can work together collectively, right? So I think when we're thinking about change and just all the craziness that's happening, like that is where I invest my time, is really thinking about collective efficacy.
I think you make a really good point about simplifying the process. And I've been in public education for a lot of years. And, sometimes we come out with new initiatives, and those new initiatives aren't met with professional development that is stabilizing and ensuring growth within that area. And that frustrates me sometimes because it doesn't make sense. Again, when we actually can dig down into the weeds and find out what we really want to have happen and then build upon it and support it and help the teachers grow, it's a win-win across the board. And you're absolutely right talking about that simplification process.
Yeah, I mean, even I think Jim Knight, he talks a lot about radical brokenness too, and this idea that we need to really communicate more authentically. And I mean, that is really some of the things that really spoke to me in the beginning 10 years ago when I was just starting with Jim Knight's work, because I felt like even 10 years ago, that as I was a new coach, that there was so much surface level communication. And I think it's just exploded now, the amount of texts and emails, and that's not real communication. And I personally at work, I feel super overwhelmed by when I open my phone. I went and got my hair done the other day and it was an hour and my phone was on Do Not Disturb. And when I picked it up and there were 87 missed texts just about work, and I went, like, I can't even read these. It's too much. And it's not authentic. It's not important. So how do we really streamline the communication that we have and make it more meaningful? Because I think at the end of the day, teachers just want to be heard, right? And they want to feel valued.
I just experienced that tonight. I was shut down for the weekend as much as I could on email, and I came in and opened up Gmail, and 86, 87 messages doesn't even come close.
Oh, I know.
When I opened that up tonight.
Well, guys, I had a huge reality check my first year in this role, where I was working with a principal, and I want to say she was not a new principal, and she opened up her laptop and she wanted to project something on the screen, so we're all watching. But when she opened it, her email was up first, and I saw 13,000 unread messages, and my stomach cramped up, and I went, oh, no wonder she never responds to me. I will never send her an email ever again, because, that really, I just oh my gosh, administrators are inundated with this. It's out of control.
Scares me to hear they were unread, though. That's a problem. Level. So we got to respond, receive, get back to you as soon as we can. That's our standard approach.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely have some strategies to help us get out of that. But thinking of strategies, Lindsay, let's hit the ground floor. What are some of those key foundational strategies or practices that you really focus on at helping teachers develop a skill set so that students can really access the curriculum in an equitable manner and ultimately be successful?
Yeah, well, so we haven't really talked about the fact that I have a new challenge on my plate this year, which is I've also picked up teaching some 6th grade classes in addition to, leading PD and all of the other things, because I felt, do you guys know the term FOMO? Fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Fear of missing out.
Oh, okay.
I was all summer, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is a ground level time in teaching and education in general. And it is brand new, no matter where you are, there are new things happening, right? And I had this distinct fear of missing out on what distance learning was going to be like, which I know some people think I'm a little crazy. But so I really went out and found some schools, found a school where I could teach some language arts, social studies and science, and a little advisory, and have my group of 6th graders so that I could really understand what are teachers experiencing, what are schools experiencing, families, students, all of the above. Otherwise, I don't know that my credibility as a coach down the line is as strong. So right now, I feel like the strategies that I'm using with students, as well as trying to incorporate with other teachers, is just really empowering student voice. Because what I notice on a screen, or just, even if people are doing hybrid and they're in person, there's so much teacher talk, and I could tell stories for hours. So I am very careful to myself about what my talk time is, and then what are the ways to engage students in talking because 50% of my students, they don't have their camera on. They might only use the chat. And this is a really unique time where before I might have been able to, kind of warm them up in the classroom, turn and talk with a neighbor. It's so different now. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Russ Qualia's work, Student Voice, but I immediately pulled down my Student Voice book because he's such an amazing speaker and his research is so great. And I'm just incorporating a lot of strategies on like surveying kids and just finding different ways of helping them feel valued. And I think to me, that is like the number one thing we can do right now. But I would also say being really familiar with the visible learning work. And I know last week you guys talked about unlocking homework and the research behind that. And so I think like when we look at the visible learning work, knowing what are the practices that are honestly effective based on the research, rather than like right now you could get online and there are so many resources being thrown at people, but what do we know is actually effective? And I think just experimenting.
It's a really valid point there. The flavor of the day is something that's famous in education, and, Dean mentioned it when initiatives come in and, the veteran educators on the staff, the pendulum's swinging back. Eventually it'll be over here again. Let's not go ahead and do all this effort and work because, well, it went away before. So I think honing in on those really essential, long-standing ideas is certainly the way to go. And it's being steadfast in the belief that it's a focus on what's best for kids, but balanced with it's realistic and meaningful to the teachers. Yeah. Now, there has to be that balance. If it's just good for the kids and the teachers are going to break their backs trying to make it happen every time, we're gonna add stress. We have to find ways to get good entry into all those strategies.
But also supported by administration with professional development that is meaningful and helps them get to the next level. That's a whole nother part of this conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I will say that, for as much as, all my friends are teachers, all my friends are principals, we're all in education at this point. But I would say that I am severely concerned about the health and well-being of administrators right now, because the amount of hours that y'all are working it's unreal. And I mean, teachers are, have a lot on their plate too, but it is not like administrators. I know. And I don't know what you guys do about it, but it's scary. I really worry.
I'm glad you said that, because my wife reminded me of how many hours I'm putting into this and how bad I am at shutting off my computer and not checking and putting my phone down and not taking time just to kind of get balanced and recentered. So thank you for mentioning that. And Kate, if you're listening, I wanted to say that. So please tell our company and our house that I do believe in what you were saying. Yeah. Just can't exercise it. That's the problem, because my mind is programmed to respond back to people quickly.
I just don't want any of my fellow educators to think that it's normal to work 12-hour days every day, or work on your weekends. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, is it about you and your family and your health, or is it about the job? And we just really need to find a way to have firm boundaries around that. And I really absolutely believe we can be effective without putting in backbreaking hours.
Agreed.
Amen. Agreed. Boom, touchdown. We'll leave it at that. So Lindsay, what do you see as some of the common mistakes being made by schools that need to be corrected right now? Besides, you said you had some background in working in schools that were a little maybe dysfunctional, maybe not the greatest of school climates. What do you see as the biggest hurdle that some schools have to get over?
That's a hard question. Again, I think being really intentional about the methods of communication right now and what we are saying when we communicate is just really critical, because we need to cut down the noise. And I think also, I know that there's a lot of talk about social emotional health, but I saw a funny TikTok just the other day that reminded me of it. And it's like, in the summer, there was a lot of like, we got you teachers, we got you educators, like, just hold on. And then all of a sudden the school year started, and I felt like we all got ripped through this like tornado in 2 days. And I feel like there's a lot of preaching about social emotional health, but then the system is not set up necessarily for us to practice that as much as they preach it. So we have to find ways collectively of actually committing to social emotional learning with our students and with our staff. Otherwise, we're just going to be, I don't know how many people are going to quit this year, but I feel like we're just going to be turning educators like crazy.
Let's hope we don't get to that
No.
level, though. But systemic change is hard. I don't care what organization you're dealing with. In education, it's even more difficult because the educators that I know are really good at what they know. And sometimes it's very difficult to unprogram that and get them to see things differently because there are a lot of systems in place that just don't allow that freedom to happen very easily. So, I look at it as, from our standpoint as leaders, Chris and me, we're looking at it as, we want to empower you to do the very best you can, take risks, take those opportunities to redefine yourself. And this is not evaluative. This is about putting the interest of children first and then driving your skill sets forward. Flipping classrooms, becoming a facilitator, giving up control of curriculum, allowing yourself the freedom to say it's okay and kids can still learn. Those things are all embedded on what we want our staffs to do. But allowing themselves, meaning staff members, to do that is difficult from their own perspective.
Yeah. And I think that, educators in general, we like things to be perfect. And that is a setup for disaster right now. It's a setup for disaster any day, but right now to suggest that things are going to be done the way we've done them before, or to carefully craft every little bit, it's not going to work. Right now, what we're really doing is exploring a completely new landscape of education and how we serve students. And I think if we are more curious about it all, that we're going to learn so much. And that is where my FOMO came in, is that I thought, how much could a teacher learn this year? And that is so exciting to me. I just want to dive in despite all of the unknown and all of the challenges. Like, my learning curve from September to May or June is going to be phenomenal. And that is so cool. I don't want to be left out of that.
Lindsay, your enthusiasm and the light that you just brought into the conversation when you were talking about that ground floor experience brings me back to last semester. In the last school year, I took on a class, and it was an exploratory class. It was really around student leadership and empowerment, trying to figure out students to get their voice out into their learning and express their real solid goals and what were they going to be experts in and how could they realize their success. And then March 13th hit and I lost that connection. I was only meeting with them twice a week, twice every 6 days, but the connection was so powerful back to the classroom. It really brought meaning and purpose back into my world as an instructional leader. And I was trying to think about how to build upon those experiences and allow my staff to have permission to stray from their traditional roles. Now we're required to stray from our traditional roles. So finding ways to best support them, finding ways to not focus on change, but how to be really good at the environment that we're in now is really one of the central core messages that I know that Dean and I are hoping to bring to our middle schools. We're fortunate because we get to be sister middle schools or brother middle schools since we're the principals, however we want to call it. But we're working in one district and we're trying to move forward. So all the 9th graders, whether they're from Dudley or from Charlton, the teachers in front of them have no idea which town the kids are from unless they're wearing a hat that says Charlton or Dudley on it, Right. And, ultimately what you brought to us tonight with your discussion and sharing around instructional coaching and really reading the room and identifying what is done well, what types of things need to be enhanced in the culture to address big picture problems really is good to hear at this point in the school year. So I'll give it to you for a last thought, and then we're going to bring it on home here, Lindsay. Any final parting words of wisdom for us as we head out into this remote world that we're heading into?
Final thought. Whew.
If I could jump in, Lindsay, before you say something, let me jump in for a second because something resonated with me that I think is important that we just should look at is hearing a student voice on what learning should look like from their end is so important. And one of the things with Unlock the Middle we're going to be doing is tapping into groups of students to say, tell me how your learning is. What do you like? How do you learn best? If we do that, if we go to our end product and then begin to build backwards, I think it would build better skill sets for all of us in education, from the administration down. We've been so top heavy the other way for so long. Now is the time, if there's ever been a time, to really gain feedback from our students, from our parents, on what we need to do to become better at our craft. Now, I don't mean to jump in because I know Chris threw a loaded question at you, but I'd love to hear what you think about that, because in the future, Chris, you know we're going to go to a student voice on this show, and I think it's vitally important.
Absolutely.
No, I'm so glad you said that, because I think sometimes we have so many adults talking about students or what we think students need or what we want students to do. And why don't we just invite students to the conversation? I remember one time I was at a conference and whoever was keynoting had said, have you ever thought about having students in on a PLC? And I went, well, no, but I would like to know more. And, I brought that back to my district and everybody poo-pooed it. No, absolutely not.
Yep.
And that really had me thinking, like, why would that not be okay? And so, I have always tried to include students in that conversation about their own learning, because isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think that, I guess that is kind of my final thought, like, include the students as much as possible. And it doesn't matter what age they are, like, they should be a part of the conversation because it is about them.
Everything that we do as middle level educators, Lindsay, is all about big picture student ideas and enhancement of their experience. And as middle level educators, we understand it's going to be messy. And the idea of perfection, yeah, it's out the window, especially coming into this year. But we just need to be prepared to react and respond in what the best interests of our kids, and for us, what our faculty and staff really need. And, that's our job. And we hope that we do it well enough. We're going to bring it on home here. We're coming up on 33 minutes of time. Old Larry Bird's number, if you're a basketball fan.
Ooh, old school.
But everybody out there in Unlock the Middle Land, be sure to follow us and check us out. All the shows that we have. Check us out at our Unlock the Middle webpage, available on our Facebook page. It's also available, linked off of our Twitter profile. We hope that you were able to glean some new information tonight from the expert who joined us, Lindsay Deacon, and school improvement coach from Portland, Oregon. And Lindsay, to you and your colleagues, family that you have, and friends, stay safe out there. We know the fires are raging, and that things are not normal out there for you right now. Hopefully you're going to be able to get back to some outdoor normal activities, and that everybody that you know and interact with is very safe. Best wishes for you. Be well, everybody. Be safe, be happy. And as always, work hard together to make things better.
Stay on, Lindsay, for 1 second, if you would, please. And again, we want to thank